All right, believe it or not, I have some good news coming out of the least likely town I ever thought, which is Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I will tell you, if you live in a city, any major city, Boston, so on and so forth, you really should be paying attention to this and take some notes. Because in my opinion, something like this could be a catalyst for future growth in those areas. So here's what's happening. Cambridge has just passed zoning reforms that lets developers build 6-story buildings across the city by right. So what that means is that there's going to be no more endless special approvals and ridiculous red tape. They could basically just build. This is a massive win, and it's honestly long overdue. And here's why. So for decades, Cambridge has made it nearly impossible to build new housing. The zoning regulations that they originally had were so restrictive that the city has currently over 55,000 housing units, but only 350 were expected to be built in the next 15 years. You heard that right. And it's crazy. It's insane. Because if they kept up with that trajectory, it would mean the housing prices would keep climbing, rent would continue to get more expensive, and to some extent, people are going to get pushed out of the markets that they want to live in. It's just how it goes. It's a supply and demand problem. So here's what's going on with some of the back end details regarding this. There's going to be no more minimum parking requirements. Some people are upset about that. Some people aren't. Pretty much everything that this details, people are going to either be for or upset about it. There's also going to be no more outdated floor area limits and no more rules that make it illegal to build apartments on most lots. So it's pretty simple. It's a straightforward plan. If you own land, you could build up to 6 stories. And guess what? Based on my research, this is exactly how cities like Minneapolis, Austin, and I believe Tokyo was the last one that have made housing more affordable by building more. It's the only way to do it, guys. It's the only way to do it. And, you know, this is where a city like Boston and really every other city need to wake up, okay? They need to wake up because right now, the median home price in Boston is around $840,000. That's a median accumulation, and that's for condos, single-family homes, and multifamilies up to, let's say, 4 units. Nothing beyond that, because then it gets into the commercial sector, right? So on top of that, rents are at record highs, right? You know that. And you have towns like Newton, like Arlington, like Milton, and they are basically doing everything in their power to block any levels of reform on new housing. It's wild, right? And the more you pull back this curtain, if you look at the data from like 2010 to 2020, the greater Boston area had around, or I should say, added around, I think it was 200,000 jobs, but they built less than 50 new homes. So if you have 4 times as many people moving in as you have places for them to live, of course, prices are going to go through the roof. That again, it's a supply and demand problem. I've been talking about that forever on this channel. And really, you know, what's happening here is Boston keeps on dragging its feet. They keep on dragging their feet. And I understand the argument that, you know, newer buildings, high rises will affect, let's say, the historical integrity of a city. But the fact is, there needs to be a balance. There has to be something done. There needs to be some levels of a balance because ultimately people will never, ever be able to afford to live here. That's what potentially can happen. And the city keeps making these like micro adjustments and micro tweaks to zoning. But meanwhile, there's people out there struggling to afford rent And first-time home buyers are getting completely priced out of these markets. They need to do more. Boston needs to do more. And they really need to set that precedent, okay? They really need to do that. And here's what happens, okay? These cities overregulate development, especially at a time that there's too much demand and not enough supply. So basically, everything will get more expensive. That's just how it goes. And of course, not everyone is going to be happy about this decision that's happening in Cambridge, okay? It's just people are upset about this. Just as many people, if not more people, are upset than are happy. So if you go check the Reddit, for example, if you're brave enough to do that, if you don't believe me, go look at what they're saying. There's groups out there, and they're saying, of course, it's going to ruin the character of the city. And like I said, I get it. Trust me, I do. But something needs to be done. And you know what? A lot of people think that this means that, at least based on what I was reading, that Cambridge's historic 3-family homes will get torn down, which just isn't true. There's so much misinformation out there. So I don't see any indication of developers tearing down triple deckers, and here's why. They're basically going to target single-family homes on larger lots because that's where it makes the most financial sense to build larger units. And the reality is that's going to, or I should say, keeping zoning laws strict doesn't save the triple deckers. It actually makes or encourages developers to gut renovate them and convert them into condos or luxury condos instead of building new housing where they could spend their resources and their time. That's what they should be doing. They shouldn't be spending time renovating these dilapidated properties. They should build new housing. Their time and their resources need to be focused on something that is new. And the key word is new, not rehabilitated. So now, of course, some of the loudest opposition in regards to this is coming from people who don't want more buildings because they don't want more cars. And again, I get that too. But at some point, we have to ask ourselves, what are we going to do to solve this problem? Or is street parking more of a priority? What is priority here? Is housing a priority or is parking a priority? I understand parking is important, okay? I understand that. But housing is a bigger issue, in my opinion. And honestly, this is my opinion on this, and I'll do a future video on this. They should create more opportunities with the MBTA and potentially extend that. But again, that's a future video. Maybe I'll do that someday. So this housing crisis that we're in is not going to fix itself, period. End of story. And I think Cambridge is taking a step in the right direction. And you know, if this works, other cities should really follow suit. And Boston should get serious about some levels of zoning reform. And we would see real progress on housing affordability. That's all it would take. They just need to clean up or deregulate a lot of what they've regulated, if that makes sense. And if nothing changes, literally nothing's going to change. And we'll keep trending in the same exact direction. So this is the real question for you guys. Do you want more housing or do you want more excuses? I don't know. I understand the complaints about this, but I think it's more of a net positive than a net negative. Yes, people may struggle to park. Yes, there may be more traffic. Everybody doesn't like that. I get it. But they need to solve, this is it. They need to solve the housing problem and then solve that issue. The biggest issue is the housing. The second biggest issue will be the parking and the traffic, or another issue that's created by more housing. But more housing is a priority. It's 100% the priority. That's it, guys. Good news out of Cambridge. I'll see you again on the next video. Bye-bye.